It began not with a roar, but with a whisper, a single crack of the wooden bat echoing down the empty stadium corridors, lighting up the night like a flare in darkness. A moment so subtle, so innocuous, it seemed almost chance. But the ripple it sent across 2 continents could not be contained. Because this wasn't just any swing. It was the primal cry of a spirit that refused to fade away. Under the glare of lights, on the grand stage of Major League Baseball, the legacy of Japanese players whispered its name again. Through the man at the helm, Dave Roberts. Through the young firebrand on the mound or at the plate, dreaming of the big leagues, imagined here in the figure of Tatsuya Amai. In their hearts, a lineage of courage, of honor, of tradition that reached back to small gyms in Japan, dusty sandlots where shadows stretched long and dreams fled faster. Roberts, a man whose heritage bridges both Japan and America, carries not just a clipboard and headset, he carries the weight of histories. In his voice you hear the past, of men who left home with nothing but a glove and a promise. You hear the silence of airports, the language barrier, the cultural gap, the handshake of one of us, ness across oceans. He speaks of a Japanese player's soul, the undimmed burning heart that endures when feet ache and arms strain, when the scoreboard says 0, and the scoreboard lies because the heart has not yet surrendered. Now imagine Tatsuya Amai, the fan favorite back home, rounding the bases in his final fan thank you event, the crowd cheering not just for his hits but for his promise. He stands there under a canopy of glowing lights and chanting voices, and he hears something deeper, the voice of every Japanese player who ever boarded a plane to America, carried a dream, faced the unknown. He hears their footsteps, their doubts, their triumphs. He feels it in his chest as he lifts his cap and acknowledges the crowd. And then Roberts sits down, microphone poised. A simple question: what does it mean to you, Japanese players coming to MLB? And Roberts answers, quietly but with steel, it's not just talent. It's culture. It's a legacy. It's the soul that's been passed down. The camera lingers on his eyes. He mentions names, some legends, some unsung, and speaks of the unbroken chain of spirit. The chain starts decades ago, when baseball in Japan was more than sport, when it was identity, when every swing carried pride, when every pitch carried hope. You see the roots in the classrooms of Meiji, in the fields of Hakodate, in sweaty uniforms stained with effort and honor. These weren't mere games, they were commitments. They were choices, to rise, to fight, to endure. Cut to the stadium in Los Angeles. The fans roar. Flags wave. Japanese voices mix with English voices. The subtle aroma of kettle corn and hot dogs drifts in the autumn air. The scoreboard flashes names like Otani, Yamamoto. Names that have become legends. The camera sweeps across Roberts in the dugout, nodding, absorbing the moment. Because he understands, this is the payoff of decades of invisible labor. This is the moment the whispers became shouts. Back in Japan, thousands of miles away, Amai stands with a group of young kids, their gloves oversized, hearts oversized. He tells them, one day, this could be you. The kids listen. They glow. They bounce between bats and balls, between hope and reality. And behind them, the posters of the old greats, each one a path that was carved, a barrier broken. Then the twist. In the clubhouse, Roberts is interrupted. A video call comes from Tokyo, where Amai is speaking live to fans from his hometown. He says he wants to go to MLB. He says he wants to carry the Japanese soul with him. Roberts watches the call. He smiles faintly. He remembers his own journey. The unseen hours of travel. The cultural loneliness. The pressure to succeed not just for himself, but for the thousands who would follow. His phone buzzes, a note from a Japanese baseball legend, congratulating Roberts on his leadership. It's the unseen thread. On the mound, in a packed stadium, Amai's future counterpart throws heat. The announcer's voice booms. He embodies the discipline, the will, the heart. The crowd gasps as the ball hits the mitt, the batter swings and fouls it away. The tension crackles. Roberts leans forward. The legacy pulses. Because what's happening isn't just baseball, it's history making itself again. And there's a moment you won't see on the stat sheet. Late at night, Roberts stands in an empty stadium, gazing at the field. The lights are off, the bench is empty. He breathes in the silence. He thinks of those who left Japan decades ago, with nothing but dream dust and ambition. He thinks of Amai in Japan, of kids watching, of parents telling stories. He thinks of the scoreboard's cold numbers, wins, losses, but also of something warmer, hope. In the next press conference, Roberts is asked, what does the Japanese player bring? He pauses. He says, They bring honor, they bring focus, they bring the spirit of refusing to quit when the crowd goes silent, when the media turns loud. The press scribbles. The audience leans in. Because this is real. This is not rhetoric. It's truth. Meanwhile, Amai holds a bat under the floodlights of his fan day event. He remembers his childhood in a small town. He remembers the coach who told him, "You fight for something bigger than yourself." He remembers the loss in the regional finals, the walk home, tears in his eyes. He remembers the promise he made in that darkness, to rise. To bring his soul to the world stage. Roberts selects Amai for a minor league camp invite. The announcement hits like thunder. The world watches. The Japanese media buzzes. The American media wonders, who is this kid? The fans in Japan erupt, one of our own. The fans in America feel a new narrative, a global story of struggle and triumph, of two cultures meeting in the diamond's sacred space. On the flight to spring training, Amai stares out the window at the clouds, at the ocean unfurling beneath. He thinks, this is not just a trip. This is a passage. His phone buzzes with messages of support from his hometown. His heart flutters. He grips his glove. He remembers Robert's words, carry the spirit. Not the weight, but the flame. In the clubhouse, day one, Amai stands among veterans. He is small in this world, but his presence is large. He hears the national anthems, the roars, the whispers. He picks up his bat. The first time he steps into a bat passing drill, he hears something click inside him. The lineage stepped in. The torch passed. The soul stirred. Roberts watches Amai from afar. He recalls his own early days, the translation booth, the culture shock, the weight of expectation. He thinks, how far we've come. How far they still have to go. And he speaks to Amai later, I see you. I know what you carry. Amai nods. Silence. Then the handshake. Then the promise. And then the stage, the big stadium, packed to the rafters. The camera pans. Amai warms up in the bullpen. He glances out at the sea of faces. He hears Japanese chants faint in the distance, echoes of home. He exhales. He steps on the mound. The first pitch. It's wild. It's outside. The crowd sighs. Roberts stands. Not worried. Patient. Because he knows the process. Second pitch. Clean. Fast. Crisp. The crack of the bat. A foul. The crowd leaps. Amai grins. This is it. This is the moment. He holds the gaze of the batter. The catcher gives the sign. The mound is his world. He breathes deep. Then he delivers. The ball flies home. The batter swings, and misses. Strike one. The crowd roars. The legacy under pressure, surviving again. When the inning ends, Amai jogs off the mound. His glove glistens with sweat. He looks to the dugout. Roberts gives him a small nod. 2 words. Good heart. And that moment means more than any stat. Because what they are building together is more than wins and losses. It's something timeless. Later, in the clubhouse, Amai sits alone. The window of the luxury suite overlooks the field. He touches the logo on his jersey, the same team that those legends wore before him. He thinks of the old coach, of the hometown crowd, of the Japanese kids watching. He vows, I will not let the flame go out. In his hometown, the kids gather, screens tuned to the live feed. They whisper his name. They feel his pitch. They feel possibility. A spark ignites in them. And they remember Robert's words, the soul travels. It travels across oceans, through culture, into hearts. In the post-game interview, Amai stands before the reporters. He is shy, his voice soft, but he says, I am honored. And I carry something bigger than me. The cameras flash. Roberts smiles in the background. He knows what's unfolding. He knows this is the living story. Days later, Roberts addresses the season priorities. But his words drift beyond the board. We're not just winning games, he says. We're continuing a tradition. We're showing the world what Japanese players bring. What any player can bring when they fight with their soul. The reporters scribble. The world listens. And in the quiet of the training fields, Amai walks alone. He touches the bases. He imagines the names engraved on the Hall of Fame. But he doesn't think of himself. He thinks of those who came before, and those who will come after. He thinks of legacy. He thinks of soul. He thinks of home. As the season unfolds, he struggles. He fails. He gets hit. He makes mistakes. The crowd quiets. The voices whisper doubts. But Roberts sits near the dugout, water bottle in hand, and reminds him quietly, soul isn't about perfection. It's about perseverance. Amai exhales. He rises. He fights back. In a decisive game, late innings, Amai is called in. The field is heavy with tension. The lights are brighter than ever. The scoreboard shows 2 outs. Bases loaded. The air hums. Amai's hand trembles for half a second. Then steadies. The legacy of Japanese players enters his veins. The lineage of Roberts, of Otani, of Yamamoto, of countless others whispers, carry the torch. He throws. The crack rings. The out is made. The crowd erupts. The Japanese fans leap. The American fans rise. Roberts jumps up. He taps his mitt. He smiles wide. A young Japanese pitcher, in MLB, doing what they said he couldn't. Doing what they said he would. Doing what he must. Post-game, Amai is soaked in sweat, euphoric. Reporters swarm. He raises his hand to silence them and says, "This win is for all who came before. For all who will come after." He looks at Roberts. Roberts nods. And in that look, you feel the weight of history, and the lightness of hope. At season's end, Roberts addresses the team, "Remember who we are. Remember where we're from. The game is bigger than the scoreboard. The spirit is bigger than the roster. The Japanese players didn't just come here to play, they came to show. They came to inspire." The team listens. They sense the gravity. They feel the fire. In the closing scene, Amai returns to his hometown for the offseason. The stadium lights fade behind him as he walks into the stands. He sits in the front row. He touches the seat. He remembers being that kid. He sees a younger version of himself running down the aisle with a glove. He smiles. The crowd around him still chants. The soul of the game still hums. And as the screen fades to black, you hear Roberts' voice one last time, "Baseball isn't just bats and balls. It's a bridge between cultures. It's the soul of the athlete. It's the Japanese player's spirit living here, now, and forever." You're left with that whisper in your mind. The crack of a bat. The hush of a crowd. The promise of a young player. And the legacy of a veteran manager. The game has changed, but the spirit remains. And it will carry on, beyond stadiums, beyond continents, into your heart. Because in the end, what we witnessed was not simply a pitch, a hit, a win. It was the rise of soul, the inheritance of spirit, the unbroken thread of Japanese players in the world of MLB. And you, watching now, are part of it.